Thank you so much for joining us today, Bill. We're really excited to have you. Can you share with the listeners some of just like the story about Big Brothers and Big Sisters and how it started and what y'all are doing?
Wow. Well, Big Brothers Big Sisters has been around for a really long time. The organization this year is 105 years old.
Mm.
So there's not too many nonprofits out there, and especially mentoring organizations that have been around that long. I'm part of Big Brothers Big Sisters Southern Lake Michigan region. We work out of South Bend, and we're actually just awarded this area. Actually, the Youth Service Bureau in LaPorte used to cover this area, and for whatever reason, they wanted to go in a different direction with their kids. So we were asked to take over the area and bring mentoring back to the Valparaiso community. So our organization out of South Bend is 54 years old, so we've been around a long time as well. Currently assisting about somewhere around 400 to 450 kids every month. And our territory now stretches from Gary, Indiana, up to Benton Harbor, Michigan, over to Three Rivers in St. Joseph County, Michigan. We have an agreement with Elkhart County to serve that, and we do Marshall as well as St. Joe. So it's quite an area, and I feel like I'm a lot of days just spending more time on the road than actually doing work. But it's just a great organization. We offer a few different programs. I'll just tell you briefly about those.
Yes.
Probably the one that people are most familiar with is our community-based. That's where a child, and we really look at or assist kids age 6 to 18 is our primary, well, not our primary group, but that's our ages that we serve. Our target recruiting group is boys and girls age 11 to 14. We think that that's where we can make the biggest impression and really help them change their lives, because we typically tend to work with a child for years with an adult mentor. But the child is typically from a single parent home. So they're missing either a male or female adult influence. So that's what we look to pair them with. We get referrals from schools. Certainly parents call us. There's quite a few kids actually that live with grandparents. So we get them reaching out to us. Sometimes the parents might be incarcerated. We've got some parents are gone in the military. So there's just a real mix of things out there, and especially with the divorce level where it is today, there's a lot of kids that are growing up alone, and they really need something to change their lives. So we do this community-based program where an adult will get with the child typically 2 to 3 times a month for, maybe it's 1.5 to 3 hours, something like that. Go to dinner, go to a movie. Talk about, what the child wants. And, we really put a lot of work into establishing goals for the children and dealing with it, working with the parents and the schools to make sure that we're actually getting something really productive out of that relationship. So that's the typical thing. Then we also do a site-based program where we will have kids meet at a school or maybe a community center after school, something like that. They might do, we have a program up in Benton Harbor, Michigan, that's called Reading Buddies. So we have adults that go into elementary schools actually and help students that are falling a bit behind, help them improve their reading skills. We have a program in South Bend. It's actually a new program for us. It's called Bigs with Badges, where it's an after-school program, and we match kids with police officers and fire department personnel. I love that program because it's really about community building and building trust between, you take an at-risk child and put them in the company of a police officer who's someone that they may not have grown up, thinking that, that's really someone that would be in their lives and be concerned about them and care about them and want to help them. And it also opens up the eyes of that police or fireman or woman that then sees life a little bit differently through the eyes of a child. So that's kind of what we do. There's some other national programs out there that we haven't quite ventured into yet because kind of feel like we have enough work in the realm that we're currently in.
Yeah. I love that you guys have the bigs with badges.
Hmm.
That's wonderful, especially, right now there's definitely some hesitation, I would say, with people who are in law enforcement, and to provide kids the ability to see that police officers are also just people.
Right.
That's a really important thing. And then on the flip side of that, to let the officers see where maybe the child is coming from, because they're arriving at these homes and there's children there, and to kind of help them experience or understand what that child might be going through in that moment is really beneficial, I think.
Or it really is. It's really eye opening. So we hear from, and we call them littles, and we call them bigs. So the youth in the program are littles, and it seems like almost every day I run across people like, oh, I was a little, or I was a big, and I did this or I did that, and we're all the time confused with the Boys and Girls Club. I've even been in interviews before, like, oh, okay, so tell us about the Boys and Girls Club. And I'm like, okay, I would, but I'm with somebody else. I love what we're able to do, and I love that we change the lives of kids. And the other really important thing about us is all of our programs are free. There's no charge. For anyone to participate. If an adult mentor wants to take a child out, they do that on their own. Typically, it might be a movie or dinner or something like that. And we also have big families where it could be a husband and wife, and they may have kids or may not have kids. That bring in a little brother or a little sister into their family, and that's a whole new thing that we've gotten into in the last couple of years too, which is really good to see. And I've heard that there's an adoption possibly pending. So it's, I don't know how that came about. It's, I probably shouldn't have mentioned it because I don't have any details, but it's just really cool to hear something like that the relationship was so strong. And something else I want to emphasize, we do a lot of work on the front end. We do get, a mom might, say her son or daughter needs a big brother or big sister. And so we really interview that family and interview the child, and we try to find out what interests that child has. What are their aspirations for the future, and talk to the mom or dad too, and then we put our bigs or adult mentors through a really extensive interviewing process, as well as a pretty significant background check, because child safety is one of the most important things that we focus on.
Sure.
But it's we put a lot of work on the front end so that relationship lasts. We don't want a child to get an adult mentor that 3 months from now they're going to say, oh, this really isn't working out. That really doesn't benefit the child at all, and it doesn't benefit the adult that much. But we have matches that have lasted. There's people that have really been together for 20 years. Wow. That typically ends when they're 18, and we officially end it when they're 18. But I continually hear about matches where, oh yeah, I invited my little to come to my wedding, and my little invited me to his wedding, or they had their first child, and it's just it builds lifetime relationships in some cases.
So that was going to actually be one of my questions I wanted to know, but I think you may have answered it, was, so if a little has a big or a mentor during a certain age of their life, does that same person stay with the little throughout, or as they go through different ages? Is that how it goes, where they stay paired with one person throughout their life stages?
In some cases, they change. We really want that match to stay together, at least till till they're at the end of their relationship. That sounds kind of bad, but they just leave our program when they're 18. But we think it's really important for both parties to be together as long as they possibly can. One of the problems that we run into is when you're dealing with young at-risk kids from single-parent households, they tend to move around. And We have defined service areas as Big Brothers Big Sisters affiliates, and sometimes they might move to Fort Wayne, from this area, or Chicago, something, or Indianapolis. And then in cases like that, we typically have to rematch them. And also, back to your point, Caitlin, about staying together, if they are in a site-based program, that's only typically during the school year, and it's with high schools, sophomores and seniors, so they will change. But oftentimes we see them, the littles or go into a community match after they've been in a site-based because they like that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Which I have another question. I have so many questions. So with that, if they're participating in the program and Big Brothers Big Sisters, can say there are things that are being learned in that relationship that may be useful or helpful during the day when the child is in school? Can certain things be applied in the learning system for that particular child, like maybe some social skills, or maybe it's during recess or lunch or passing period and things like that maybe they just need a little bit of extra attention, and how receptive the schools are to just the overall program.
Okay, so the schools are really receptive to us coming in, and sometimes might be a different mentor that will come in, but we'd still try to stay with that same mentor. But we do a lot of check-ins, especially during the first year, to see how that child is progressing. Also, we measure the satisfaction level in the relationship. Are they, is the big and the little getting along? We talk to school counselors. We talk to the parents. Is your child progressing in ways that you would like to see them progress? Are there any areas where you think that they could use additional assistance? So we offer our bigs all kinds of training to help them be as much a resource as possible for that child. So yes, the schools love us. We go in. That's one of the things. It's kind of this constant improvement. We keep dialing up the relationship to make sure that the child can get the most out of it, and the big for that matter. We're also, at least in St. Joseph County in Indiana, participating in the 21st Century Scholars Program for kids that are in our program, so that we're helping them down a path where they can go to a 4-year college in the state of Indiana and have that paid for. So that is just a huge advantage. And often our challenge is convincing the parents that this is something that their child should really be working at. And the other thing I want to mention is, I talk about at-risk kids, and they don't have to be at risk to be in this program. We do not have income qualifying. It's anyone that could really benefit from having a big brother or big sister.
That's amazing. I love that it's not limited to somebody who has certain qualifications to be a part of that program, because I think no matter what situation you're in, having another person, an adult in your life who cares for you, you can always benefit from that, right?
Right. Yep.
You mentioned that there's the family, like the bigs can be like a family dynamic, and they can take on a little. Can you share a little bit more about that? Because that's something I don't know that I've heard very much about when it comes to mentoring, and it sounds like an amazing opportunity.
Well, and it's really not a traditional program at Big Brothers Big Sisters. We really rolled it out about a year ago, and it was really driven by, you have couples that, or maybe they have one child, but they want to do things together. So if the mom or the dad goes off with their little, and they talk about, we had this fun, we went to the movie and everything. So it's kind of appealing, like, oh, well, can I come? And it used to be you had to get permission from the family, like, to bring another person along and what you were doing. And we had to do, another background check and get all this stuff done. And by the time you get it all done, it's like, well, the opportunities pass. So we really kind of opened the doors. We actually have an employee in our Elkhart office that she and her husband, it was him first I really want to get a little brother. I want to, be able to do something. And she says, well, and we only pair males with males and females with females.
Mm.
A big couple can be matched with either. So that opened up the door too. And I'll talk about our recruitment challenges in a minute here. But this couple, so we said, oh yeah, we got this one boy, and our employee there was getting her husband all kind of lined up, and then we found out he had a younger brother that was 2 years younger. That was like, oh, you're getting a big brother? What about me?
Mm-hmm.
Can I have a big brother?
Mm-hmm.
And so Shelby is her name, came and said, we would like to be a big couple. We would like to, take on both of these boys. So they did that.
Oh,
And
wow.
we've seen them out, in different events and things, and they're just having the best time. And it's COVID has put some challenges on things. So I know that a lot of kids are, missing their big brothers and big sisters, but we're getting back to starting to do things.
Mm.
So I mentioned that we have some challenges when it comes to recruitment. We have right now in our region probably 100 kids on a waiting list
Wow.
for a big brother or big sister. Most of those are young males. About 60% of those are young males of color. So it's we struggle with getting adult males in the program, whether you're of color or not. We don't see color when it comes to matching a child with someone that has like interests. So if there's anybody out there listening that is an adult male that's ever thought about being a big brother, big sister, and the complaint I always hear is, oh, I don't have time to do that. It's a couple of hours a month, and it can change a kid's life.
Yes.
I mean, it's super impactful as to what someone can do out there.
I have to say, I think with this COVID time that we've had where we've really been kind of centered in our own homes, it's really kind of opened, I can speak for myself at least, it's opened my eyes to how much time I actually do have. Like I always felt like, oh, I'm so busy. I never have time. And then COVID came and I'm like, I actually do have quite a bit of time if I prioritize things, I could make certain things a little bit more of a priority. And so maybe that's something, if you're listening right now, think about how you're spending your time. Could you make this a priority? Could you take 2 hours a month to change a life? I mean, I think it's worth it.
Well, I totally agree.
Yeah. And so why, if you know or have an opinion, why do you think that is? Is there a reason, or I wonder if there's some sort of thought process as to why the need for a male big brother is greater than, say, like a female?
Well, it's just that women tend to step up. I think that women really get it and understand that they can help a child, and they're naturally caregivers. But they're certainly more caring than most males, and I don't know why. I just don't know why people don't think that they have the time. I mean, I think that there were all kind of victims to the clock, and we thought, like, I am so busy, it's just like, oh, I just need to rest, I don't want to do anything. Actually, I think that our bigs find that it's pretty exciting to have actually something to do that's not related to their work or their home life, to get out and do something different. And if you really think of it from the perspective of that child and the difference that you are making for that child, I think that that's pretty impactful when it comes to thinking about the best use of your time.
And I really enjoyed that I just hearing you say that, because I didn't think of it, but I think now it makes sense. Maybe as a male, an older adult male or young adult male maybe they don't think they're capable of what can I offer to a young
Right.
child, a kid, how can I really be helpful? I'm not, maybe they don't see themselves as nurturing, or like you said, like as a woman has, it just kind of comes a little bit natural, that caring like instinct. So maybe they just don't realize that they are capable of, having that like an emotional
Hmm.
connection. And even if it's something like that's like, if it's sports or something like that, or something, that's still a connection. It doesn't necessarily have to be, really overly emotional maybe at first, but just kind of breaking the ice
Right.
in the beginning. So I think that may be something that they just don't realize that they can do it.
Right. We also, there's a fear out there too, and I think that's just kind of driven by society these days. I had a young man, it was probably 2 months ago now, but he said, I just, what about child abuse? And, I don't want to be, seeing that, I'm, like a pedophile or something because I, want to have a young man in my life. I'm like, no, it's not, it's not about anything like that. We certainly take steps to make sure that, we, do thorough background checks on everyone. And, we're concerned about child safety. And, like even for the first year, you cannot have that child come to your house. You have to meet in public. And we want people to get used to being around each other. But for this guy that I talked to, it was just, he was deathly afraid of like being sued or accused of something. And it's, I knock on wood. I don't know if this table's real wood or not, but we've not had a case like that in Indiana.
I think it's important, like you just said, for people to remember, there are a lot of procedures in place or protocols in place, right? There's an extensive background check. If they're meeting in the public, that reduces any risk of from either side. And then I'm going to assume, and please let me know, but I'm sure you guys do interviews with the people, along the way beforehand, and really just vet the person that's going to be involved in this little's life to make sure that they are
Oh,
safe.
we really do. We sit down with people. We require references, and we talk to the references. It's not just a piece of paper that somebody flips in, but we do a lot of work to make sure that we don't have a problem down the road. It's just it's a scary time out there,
Sure.
but it's also a time of great opportunity, and that's what we really want to focus on, is changing the lives for these kids. So it not only changes their life for them, but it changes our world for the future. We're building better communities through effective, positive mentoring.
Yeah. I think you just hit everything that's so important, right? Like you're changing lives and you're changing the world. What better can we really do? And I think it's wonderful that you guys have these opportunities for people to become, full of joy for themselves too, because I can't imagine being a big wouldn't fill your cup, if you will. Um, but I do want to kind of take a moment to share a little bit about mentoring. And I think it's important for the listeners to know that when we're talking about substance use disorder, if there's a child at risk for that, someone that comes in as a mentor can really change the trajectory of that child's life and maybe reduce their risk of substance use disorder in the future. In fact, I believe connectivity to your community and to adults is a protective factor, which means that those things implemented in a youth's life are going to reduce the risk of them developing substance use disorder, or it's going to delay them starting with maybe smoking or drinking at a later age, which then will, of course, increase their likelihood of not developing a dependence. And so mentoring is wonderful in so many ways, but I think it's important for people to know that too. This mentoring has a practical pull in the sense that it provides reduction of harm to youth in the community, and that's so important.
Yep, it's positive reinforcement for positive behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and we look at all those indicators too for drug, alcohol abuse, and that's one of the things when we're checking in with the family. Have you seen any signs? And we talk to the bigs about that. Is there any indicators that this child might be going down a different path? And that's one of the reasons we're so excited about partnering with the Porter County Substance Abuse Council. I think that I'm just really excited about coming into this community and bringing our program here and, effectively making a difference for the future for everyone.
Yeah. We're excited too. We're really happy to have you guys, servicing this area. It's so needed. And I know that right now it's Valpo focused, and I'm hoping that we grow into the other surrounding areas once we get our footing here in Valpo, because it's Porter County needs this. I mean,
Mhm.
I can't. I can think of so many people throughout my life that I've encountered that could seriously have benefited from having a mentor.
Yep, I totally get it.
Mhm. So, as far as parents and families, or if it's one parent, are parents also given some kind of tools that they can also apply, that maybe they don't know about, like kind of like a parenting education type of thing?
We actually do that. We have a grant over in Elkhart County where we're offering or providing classes to parents also, so that the process just the more points you hit with a child, and keep repeatedly hitting those points, the child is eventually going to get it and either stay on the path that they're supposed to, or they're going to jump on board. In most cases, there's some kids that for whatever reason, it's just they fall through the cracks. But no, I think that parents are a really important part of this. But again, COVID has been one of those things that's made it difficult to get in touch with people. Another challenge that I just thought of because of COVID, we started to do things virtually for our matches. But a lot of our households had a government issued phone with limited minutes available on it. So it really limited the number of contacts that our bigs could have with those littles. So it's just another challenge. I'm really hoping that all of this is behind us now, and we're moving to much more productive, safe, and happy places. But we've had some challenges.
Yeah, definitely challenging trying to just overcome all of these, the hoops having to jump through, and the safety precautions and everything like that just adds to the pressure, to the stress of, you're still trying to accomplish a goal here.
Right.
Just because we were experiencing COVID didn't mean, if anything, it meant that the youth, young people needed that support even more at times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know that, and I certainly don't have statistics in front of me, but I know that there was a huge concern when COVID happened and schools shut down that children would be home in the place that maybe isn't safe for them.
Right.
And so, yeah, I just to echo what you just said, Caitlin, I mean, this was the time kids needed their older adult, the
Yeah.
safe person more than ever. And so,
And I tell you, I can't even count the number of schools that contacted us. It's like, can you, take your program virtually to help these kids from this school or that school? And we just didn't have the capacity. I mean, it's just, it's kind of overwhelming.
oh, sure. I mean, I don't think anybody
No.
really planned for everything to shut down. It was definitely a wild situation that, yeah, I think a lot of people were testing their limits, right?
Exactly.
What can we take? What can't we?
Well, right, because when you think about it, because there are some kids, I've done a couple, an internship at a counseling center in Crown Point, and some kids that you just get to know, and then that you find in your work, they have a lot of people in their lives. So like they spend their time at school, then they have an after school program, then say they have a mentor, they have a therapist, social worker, grandparent, etc. And then they spend a limited amount of time at home with a parent, and maybe it's just not the best situation. So go from that to spending all of your days and hours at home in an environment that sometimes is just flat out brutal,
Yeah.
and that is what really breaks my heart. But I know that everyone was trying to do the best that they could
Mm-hmm.
to just get through this?
Yeah, it's certainly a challenging time, or was a challenging time. Hopefully it's getting better.
Yeah.
One of the other things we do, and you talk about the home that the child is in, one of the things we do once we receive an application for a child is we do a home visit.
Mm.
So we can really look at the environment that that child is coming from. It helps us frame what type of resources we need to put in that child's life.
That's awesome. So when you guys find out what resources are needed, then do you guys kind of connect the parent with those resources? Is there any kind of maybe referral to a service that provides case management, anything like that? Or
We do all that. We'll do an ACEs assessment. So
Ooh.
we'll come in. We really kind of pick things apart and make sure that we're looking at that child and the environment in a holistic manner to make sure that we can provide the absolute best programming for that child.
Excellent. So just to kind of let the listeners know, ACEs is Adverse Childhood Experiences, and there's a list of things that meet the requirements for ACEs, and then if this child has 4 or more of those, they're at higher risk for
Right.
future health issues, and just kind of all around things that can be hard or detrimental to their life. So it's great that you guys utilize ACEs to determine the needs there, because that will give you a pretty clear picture, I would think.
It really does, as long as people are truthful.
Sure. Yes.
And some people just, some of the questions in the ACEs stuff are a little bit tough for people to answer, but if they do and they're truthful, it really gives us a solid base to be able to provide some direction for both the family and for the child.
Wow.
Yeah. And speaking of that, so as far as mentors go, or people who want to either become a big brother or a big sister, for those who are people in like recovery, what does that look like for someone like that who is now interested in wanting to provide, mentorship for a little?
So our bigs in general have to be over the age of 18. They can certainly be in recovery as long as they don't have a felony conviction, in their back. In some cases, I think that can be waived. If they have any kind of conviction involving domestic violence or child abuse, then they cannot be in our program.
Right.
But when it comes to just, if they're in recovery, sometimes people in recovery make the best mentors because they've been there, they've done it, they know what the consequences are of, having a lifestyle that puts you in that kind of position, so they can really help steer kids away from that. And I think there's a lot to be said for talking from experience, rather than from a book. They would not necessarily be prohibited from being part of our program, and we'd certainly be happy to, take a look at anybody that might be interested in joining our program. And you can go online to becomeabig.com, and there's an application right there which would put you in the works to become part of our program.
That's wonderful. And I feel like it's okay to share this because we recently recorded an episode with another coalition member who is in recovery, and she was sharing her story, and she was just so excited to share that she is going to be a big. She was like
Great.
pumped about it. So I know that people, like you just said, people in recovery, they have some experiences that bring so much value to
Right.
that relationship. And I think from her perspective, that's one of the things she's really excited about is I've lived down this path, and I want to give somebody who maybe could have used an intervention at a certain age and then not gone down this path. That's what she wants to provide to somebody, and she's pumped about it. So
Well, I think that is so cool because I'm not, I know who you're talking about.
yes.
But if you think about, had she not gone down that path, where might she be today?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know about those missed opportunities, but to want to help a child avoid those types of situations and the types of pressure that takes you down that path, it's just so wonderful, and it's heartwarming. And I know that her little is just going to be a rock star.
Oh, yay.
Yes.
We're so excited for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, you are, willing to kind of share like what it looks like, how people can get involved. And I wanted to ask, when somebody is, like you mentioned that people can refer littles, like what is the process for them to become, or to like ask for somebody to be their big, if there's someone who wants to volunteer a little? I don't know how to say that well.
Well, our website works for both littles and bigs,
Okay.
and for school counselors and grandparents. You can just go on there. You can fill out the form, and we'll sift through it and figure it all out, and then try to match you, whether it's a big or a little, with somebody that's really what you're looking for, as either a little or a big. And we want to put people to work. We've got all these kids that are waiting,
Yes.
and some of them have been waiting over a year. So, if you're listening out there and we've tugged at your heartstrings at all, and you want to make a difference for the future, get off the couch and get on the web and go to becomeabig.com and help a
Yes.
local kid.
Oh, I appreciate what you're doing, just the efforts you're putting in. And I really hope that this message, what you just said, really resonates with people. We have 100 kids in our community waiting, to be in this relationship where they get somebody who can help them navigate the world a little better. So please, if
Yeah.
you're listening, go to becomeabig.com.
Yep.
All right.
Super easy, and won't cost you a thing, but 5 minutes to fill out the form.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
That's great.
Well, I really appreciate you having joined us today. Caitlin, is there anything else before we close out? Because I know that you had quite a few questions. I want to make sure that I'm not letting you miss any of those.
No, I don't think so. Also, and just as you were saying, the current wait list, not to mention the people who may not even know about this, but are like
Right.
that could use this service. They just don't know about it. There are so that list grows even more.
It does. And we never recruit kids. I mean, there's, parents hear about us, or they get referrals from other agencies or something like that, or what their schools call. Our problem is getting the adult mentors.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, you heard it here. That's the need. That's the call to action.
Yep.
Let's get some adults into this program to help
Do it
out these
today. The
littles.
website works 24 hours a day.
Yes. Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else as we're closing out that you wanted to add to this episode?
Just that, I know people think that they don't have the time, or they think that they don't have anything worthwhile to provide a child. Just adult companionship and someone that's there to listen to what their problems or concerns are, that can help give them a little advice. Everybody can take some time and benefit a child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening to this episode of Matters of Substance. Please go to becomeabig.com and check out the website and apply. If you would like to follow Matters of Substance on social media, you can find us on Instagram at Matters of Substance PC. And Bill, is there any social media points that they can follow Big Brothers Big Sisters on?
Oh, we have a Facebook page, so it's still, Facebook, Become a Big. Real simple, and we would love to have more followers.
Yes, yes. And then you can see all the cool things that are happening.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us so much today, and we really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much for having me, and let me talk a little bit about our program.